Thanks for tuning into the 6three podcast. I'm your host, Joel. My co-hosts, Isaiah and Ben. Last week we did offensive line. This week we are moving to the defense. Next week will be linebackers. The defensive line, edge rushers. There was a little bit of controversy trying to figure out and determine who's considered a linebacker, who's considered defensive line, edge rusher. And I basically determined that by paying for a year's subscription worth at PFF. So I did all the numbers on that, crunched all the snap counts, and sent out a list to everyone. So hopefully that is serviceable for our lists on this one. But Isaiah, you get to do the first pick, then Ben will go 2 and go 3.
Okay. I'm going to go with a very good defensive line, but one that still is quite young. I'm going to go with the Washington football team.
All right.
I like it.
Chase Young had one of the best rookie defensive seasons for a lineman ever. He just was incredible all year, incredibly disruptive, kind of just picked up where he left off in college and showed that he wasn't just dominating college because he was bigger than everybody, but he actually had skill. He had actual fundamentals that make him just an incredible defensive lineman. You have Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, but Montez Sweat, also one of the fastest defensive linemen, probably the fastest defensive lineman in the league. And you got Khaleke Hudson, Matt Ioannidis. You got some depth, but those top guys just wreak havoc. They are almost single-handedly, in my mind. The defense as a whole, but the defensive line especially was basically the reason the Redskins weren't a laughingstock last year like they have been. So yeah, I thought they deserved to be up there. I understand they're still pretty young. Chase Young could regress. There's some young guys who maybe they wasted put a first round pick on who isn't up to that standard, but I think it's an incredibly good offensive or defensive line, and I think they have some good depth, like I said.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I have them at 2, so that's a good pick right there.
Yeah, no problems with that for me. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, that's who I have next.
Obviously, there's a little bit of recency bias here, just watching them chase Patrick Mahomes around the field for
500 yards worth.
Yeah, insane. But Shaquille Barrett, Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea. Their backups were incredible last year. I would say if you're looking at a way to build a football team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now are the way you want to look at it.
And they continued to build. They used their first round pick, number 32, on Joe Tryon. So
exactly.
They're not stopping.
Yeah, they are. I don't know, incredibly disruptive. I don't really know how you block that front consistently for a whole game. Sue, I think, is, he's exactly where he needs to be too. He can still be, he's getting towards the older side, I guess, by now, but he can still be his incredibly disruptive self in the interior now that he's surrounded by these incredible, pass rushers around him. That he doesn't, he isn't going to get triple teamed if, in certain situations, because he's got good guys around him. He can still be a disruptive force. I don't know. They play the run and the pass at just an incredibly high level. I think that's something that, sometimes we look at D lines and we're like, man, look at all the pass rush, but sometimes they can't play the run, and these guys do. So let's see. They were 5th in pressure rate in the whole NFL, 1st in rushing yards allowed before contact. So, and if they get a full healthy Vita Vea this year, that's going to make a big difference. So,
yeah, good pick. So far, this is going just how I would like it to go. And number 3, I'm going to put the Philadelphia Eagles to hopefully keep that going. I like Derek Barnett from Tennessee. Javon Hargrave was a great free agent pickup from the Steelers. Fletcher Cox has been doing it for a long time as one of the best interior defensive linemen in football.
Yep.
And then you get Brandon Graham from Michigan, who's been doing it for a while at a consistent level. They draft Milton Williams in the 4th round from Louisiana Tech. Josh Sweat is probably the 2nd fastest edge rusher behind Montez Sweat. and I don't think they're related, but they're both extremely fast edge rushers. And then they drafted Marlon Tuipulotu from USC as well. So they've got some really solid guys, even on the depth side there.
I like Ryan Kerrigan too. I mean, I know some people think he's a linebacker, but we had him 3% that he was in coverage. So basically an edge, and like, yeah, he's just been pretty solid for a few years. Like he just kind of is pretty consistent, and you know what to expect.
Definitely.
I don't know how I missed mentioning Ryan Kerrigan, but thank you for taking care of that.
Yeah.
I was looking at my old rankings, I think.
Yeah. No, I think Washington's going to miss out on not having him for sure. Like I put him number 1, but they'd be like well beyond like number 1 if they still had him on their team. But like he's not someone to, like you said, forget about. Like, but yeah, Eagles, I had them a little lower, but like I think basically them and my next couple teams are all basically tied. Like they're just really good.
Yep.
Next up, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers, led by TJ Watt, who has just been incredible his first couple of years. Like, I mean, I think he probably could have won Defensive Player of the Year last year. I don't think they did a bad job not giving it to him, but I think he could be, I don't know. If he doesn't have the injuries like his brother did, he could have like the best career out of them too. Because I think JJ is just like held back by how many injuries he had. I know like his peak is incredible, but TJ Watt could just have like a much more consistently incredible career. You got Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, and just a lot of guys who are just pretty solid contributors on that defensive line. Like there isn't a ton of names that it's just like, oh my gosh, they got this guy and this guy and this guy. But they just got a handful of guys that are consistently there doing what they need to do and can just able to contribute in the ways they can. So
they got more pressure on the quarterback consistently than any team in the NFL last year.
Yeah.
That's saying something for sure.
Yeah. It might not be like every name's popping out at you, but what they have, they do the most with it.
Yeah.
Definitely part of it was their scheme. We remember watching them just dominate and end Saquon Barkley's career week 1 and then pretty much dominate every other team's run defense. Yeah. So they get a lot of push right there. But I think they're notorious for kind of crowding the box and trusting their secondary. Mm-hmm. So I think that's I looked at when I was looking at PFF, a lot of their linebackers still go in to try to play the run or do a pass rush or a blitz off the end, and it worked for them. They were dominant, especially in the run defense category. Alex Highsmith was a rookie for him last year, performed extremely well.
Yeah,
and you get obviously names like Chris Wormley, who we know obviously from Michigan, and Quincy Roche from Miami, Florida, who's a rookie this year, was a 3rd or 4th round pick. So I like some of their depth back there too.
Yeah.
Tyson Alualu was like 35, but he's also been pretty solid in the middle. Yep, I like that. All right, Ben, who you got at 5?
Oh, man. There's a couple teams I'm considering here, but I am actually going to go with I'm going to go with the Bears here at 5.
Yeah.
You know, Khalil Mack, obviously insane. They lose Robertson Harris and Brent Urban, but they do get Eddie Goldman back, who opted out last year, who was, I think he's incredible, especially in the run game. Just an overall pretty overwhelming defensive line. Another team that you sit there and you just expect their defense, especially their front 7, to just be a dominating force year in and year out. I think they deserve to be in the top 5. I mean, you sit there and look at all the names. They don't blow you away from a pure pass rush standpoint necessarily, but they're just incredible front. And not a front I would really want to see, and not a front that's why I'm happy the Lions, I guess, have a good offensive line, because I feel like maybe that's going to be a pretty fun battle. But yeah, I mean that front is not something that you want to deal with.
Yeah, well, spoiler alert for sure. The Lions need an offensive line because I have the other 3 NFC North teams in my top 8 on my list.
Yeah, they're all good. So,
yeah.
maybe one other team I considered in the top 5 here, maybe 2, but yeah, I think the Bears deserve it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, shout out to Akeem Hicks too. Like, one up there with him and Fletcher Cox are like up there for probably the most disruptive interior defensive lineman in the league. Like, he just is.
Dude makes plays.
And they really need, like, I think I saw some. Maybe it was just like when people mentioned it and they would just lose. Like when Akeem Hicks was out a couple games last year, they almost always lost when he was out. Like their defense just didn't look good. They didn't have that cornerstone piece. Like obviously Khalil Mack's the big name, but like Akeem Hicks seems to make that defensive line work.
Without Hicks, they can just focus more attention on Khalil Mack, and Hicks demands double teams in and of himself. So that's going to open up everything around him.
Yeah, and there's also like Christian Jones, close to being considered a linebacker, but wasn't.
Yeah. Well, then
they just got a lot. Yeah,
but he's got a solid long career. They just drafted Charles Snowden from Virginia. But yeah, you mentioned Eddie Goldman, and I think Eddie Goldman's one of the most underrated interior linemen in football. He plays obviously typically a right end position in a 3-4 defense, but any other 4-3 is an interior. And then you got Bilal Nichols, who's not a joke either. And Angelo Blackson provides depth, and he spent the previous 2 years with the Texans. Yep. So yeah, they've got depth. Just names. Not only Hicks and Mack really blow you out with the big names.
Yeah.
The other got a lot of underrated pieces because those big names get so much focus.
Yep. They're similar to the Steelers. Like you got those couple big names, but they just have all these guys who just do everything that they're asked to do.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, they're good. Number 6. I don't want to go with the other NFC North team that I have here, and that's the Green Bay Packers.
All right.
Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith both do a great job on the edge, wreak havoc all season long. Kenny Clark is another interior defensive lineman that would probably be considered to be a top 5 interior D lineman in football. And then Rashawn Gary, a lot of people think he's only going to get better as time goes on. Dean Lowry, underrated name. And then other than that, it's mediocre depth, but I really like those names that I have listed before. And when you have those edge rushers like Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith in the middle with Kenny Clark, that would drive me bonkers to try to block those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Kenny Clark is up there in that tier with those other guys who just like interior linemen. That's just ridiculous. Like, and I think like the most I think about Kenny Clark is, I know this is stupid, but like in Madden, for some reason, he's just like the most unstoppable player in the world. Like I could block. I had a franchise in the NFC North, and I could block like Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks and all these other guys, but like Kenny Clark just dead every time. So
yeah, if you try to run ISO, nope, not going anywhere.
Yeah, but no, Zadarius Smith too. Like both Smiths, I think are just solid contributors in like top tier in their positions. And yeah, Rashawn Gary, like we know the name and we like love him, but hopefully he just keeps kind of excelling and keeps getting.
He had a good year.
He really should. Yeah,
I think he's got all the physical tools to dominate. Eventually.
Yeah, he really has no excuse to like not be good.
Right.
All right, I am going to go with the best defensive lineman in the league with the next team, and I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams. You also got Leonard Floyd there, our boy, Ashawn Robinson. But Aaron Donald, man, like just insane how good he is. Like I know his stats aren't always necessarily there. They were this last year especially, but like just looking at how often he is like triple teamed and double teamed and they throw all these crazy things at him. And it makes everyone else look probably better than they would if they were on a different team. Yes. Like some of those other guys don't have as much success. Like the Rams have been pretty good. I forget who it was, the really short guy a couple of years ago, who they picked up. And then the Lions picked him up actually, I think. But like there's these guys where they'll just plug this guy in who you maybe haven't heard of in a couple of years, and they'll just have a resurgence just because they're one-on-one all the time, because Aaron Donald takes so much away from everybody else. And then they got like other names that I think again are pretty solid contributors, but again, yeah, what would happen if they were on a different team? I don't know, but I can't let the best defensive lineman in his team, and just again how they're really able to excel with the pieces that they have. They have been basically the whole time that Sean McVay's been there. I think one of the things that people give them too much crap for is that Super Bowl, which was terrible. But they also held the Patriots to less than 10 points almost the entire game. That defense kept up with the Patriots, and it was a defensive battle for most of the game. It wasn't just so one-sided and the Patriots were just running all over the defense. That Rams defense, especially with that front seven, but with the offensive line, they kept him in that game.
Definitely.
Yeah, I still think that's the second most boring Super Bowl of all time, behind only the Broncos and the Panthers.
Yes.
But, you ready?
It was hard to watch.
You ready for this, in my opinion, is the stupidest Aaron Donald stat from last year, or from the past 5 seasons. So Aaron Donald has 456 pressures over the past 5 seasons. So that is 86 more than any other defender, despite the fact he sees more double and triple teams than any other defender.
Yeah. Yikes. I mean, yeah, everybody knows it. If you watch any instant replay, it seems like he's making an impact somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What I was really impressed with him is when because he was not healthy at the end of the year last year, especially in the playoff games. That was still a good defensive line. I mean, I know it was against the Seahawks and they're very suspect up front. But they still dominated that game, even when he was kind of in and out of that game. He wasn't consistently playing. He played a lot early in the game, and then they really kept him out because he was hurt. Mm-hmm. So that's what impressed me.
I gave them I felt like I gave them a pretty good benefit of the doubt. I put them at 11 solely on Aaron Donald, but like Isaiah made the point, I don't really care for the other people in this on their line at all.
Sure. But
just the difference he makes, I think, opens up opportunities for a bunch of these other guys that, maybe in my mind think they're scrubs, but because they're single, they're just one-on-one so often. If that they make a difference. They show impact.
Well, and like I said, Leonard Floyd, he had 18 and a half sacks in 4 years with Chicago. He had 10 and a half last year. It's just –
it's the Aaron Donald effect. Sure.
It's the Aaron Donald effect. So, it's a hard way to rank them just because of that. Would A'Shawn Robinson and Leonard Floyd and these other people look as good on a different team? No. But the fact that they are, on this team, they just, they do everything that they need to do. 10 and a half sacks for Leonard Floyd. That's incredible.
They do have to replace Michael Brocker, so that'll be interesting. Cause he's playing
true.
But I still think they'll be fine.
Yeah. That's for sure. I like Aaron Donald effect. But yeah, all right. 8? Is it pick 8 here?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to go with the Saints here at number 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the big name there is Cameron Jordan. He's monster, superstar for sure.
Oh, I thought it was Ryan Glasgow.
What's that?
I thought it was Ryan Glasgow.
I like Ryan Glasgow, but Glasgow over the nose. But Marcus Davenport has had good seasons when he's healthy. So I really, I'm putting a lot into that. They need him to be like he was, a few years ago when he was healthy, though.
College at Texas San Antonio.
Yep. Yeah, well, that would certainly help. That would be good. But overall, I think it's definitely still a top 10 unit for sure. It sucks because this unit used to have Trey Hendrickson, I think. He was really good last year the year after they lost him. So they would probably love to have him back.
Well, that's why they drafted Peyton Turner with their first pick.
Right. So, I don't know. I would say Cameron Jordan is another kind of guy that demands a lot of attention.
Right.
And you'll look at, this. I think you'll look at this defensive line, and maybe the stats aren't going to be there. I think Jordan's going to have stats no matter what, but
Right.
the stats maybe are not like knock your, blow off the page, screaming at you. But you're going to look at the whole group, and you're going to say, man, that was the strength of that defense. Like they're loaded. They're just a good defensive line. So yeah, that's in my opinion where we're at with them.
I just want to go back and say Dante Fowler was the short guy I was thinking of.
I like
Oh, yeah.
6'3".
He's still around.
Yeah, but so again, like in his first 3 years, he had 14 sacks. On the Rams for one season, he had 13, or he had 11 and a half. Like
He had some good years with like the Jaguars for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now he's in the Falcons, but Falcons defensive line I don't have very high. So, all right, number 9. I think I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers.
That's who I have next. Yeah.
Yeah, Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw in his second year, who I really like. And then Eric Armstead's been consistently solid after he got over his first 2 seasons. I like Mo Hurst at depth, D4 down edge.
Yeah.
Samson Abukum has also been a productive edge rusher in the NFL, and then Zach Kerr also in the interior. I like some of those pieces, and Arden Key, Jordan Willis, Contavious Street, DJ Jones in depth. Yeah, this is kind of the point where you're going to look at the defensive linemen who really stand out and make a huge impact for their team, and then make the job easier for maybe some of these more mediocre guys in the line. But nonetheless, the production is still there.
For sure.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I mean, I don't know. I think that's just going to be another one of those lines that's just going to be productive, flat out. So.
Well, and yeah, Nick Bosa was everyone's favorite pick for defensive lineman of the year before he got injured last year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question there is okay, is he going to, how is he going to come back off the injury? But I'm not. Yeah. I mean, most guys nowadays, unless it's something crazy, can come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think part of what makes it able for him to come back well is that he's not in an island on that defensive line. It's not just him. Obviously, he's their best edge rusher, but they have other people to help him out if he has a week or a quarter or a half of a football game where he's just kind of feeling a little rough around the edges. Then they have these other guys who can step up.
Yeah.
Next, I'm gonna go. Man, I don't know a lot of these names, but I know 2 of these names that are very attractive. I'm gonna go with the Cleveland Browns next.
That is my next one.
Yep.
The 2 names, obviously, Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. That is just going to be absolutely lethal with those 2 guys coming off the edge at you. I really don't I know Clowney took a year off. I don't think he's going to I don't think he's going to miss a step, honestly. I think he's going to be I think he's just going to pick up where he left off. Before that, sorry, not last year, but yeah. And then Myles Garrett is just incredibly good. He's up there with the Bosa brothers and J.J. Watt and T.J. Watt and all of these elite edge rushers who just, no matter what team they're playing, no matter what's thrown their way, they are disruptive. They are making an impact on every single game that they're in.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't hit people with his helmet.
Yeah, obviously he likes to bonk people on the head, but other than that,
just a bonk.
Just one simple bonk, just some assault, period. Yeah, so I just think that's I'm just really excited to see those 2 play together. Because, yeah, Myles Garrett's kind of been by himself on the defensive line. He's had some other pretty good players with him. No one he just hasn't been surrounded by absolute bums his whole career. But just to be opposite another just Pro Bowl level player is just going to be really awesome to see.
Yeah, I think that's going to help him a lot. He's going to get more one-on-ones. They're both going to get more one-on-ones, and that's going to be dangerous.
Honestly, I think they're the reason that I have Tommy Togiai as one of my more underrated sleeper late-round rookies this year. I think Tommy Togiai could have a pretty good year despite him being late round pick. Or did he even go undrafted? I had him as a late round pick, but he might have.
Yeah.
I think he'd be good.
For sure.
Yeah, he's going to have the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually going to go with the Arizona Cardinals next.
Okay.
Okay.
Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt, Marcus Golden. That's pretty impressive on the edge there. Jordan Phillips was kind of, I don't know. He was injured for part of the year last year. He wasn't. I guess he was a bit of a disappointment last year. But I think if you have a trio like that off the edge, and I think they're probably going to move Watt inside a lot because he started to do that a lot lately in his career anyway, because he's big enough and he can wreak some havoc in there. I think they'll probably be moving him inside a lot more just to help out with a little bit of a weaker interior. I think they're going to, at the very least, rush the passer. So I definitely think they deserve to be in the top 15. Obviously now with Watt there, that makes a big difference. So if he's healthy too, because he always has injury problems too.
Yeah, and Leaky Fotu.
Yeah, Leaky.
Devon Kennard. We know Devon Kennard. Yeah, good pick. I have them as the second next available. Talk about my next available here, and that is the Minnesota Vikings. So
okay.
That obviously leaves the Lions as the worst defensive line in the NFC North, but that's not really much of a surprise.
No.
I like Michael Pierce, Dalvin Tomlinson, Sheldon Richardson, all in the middle. That's a good rotation. And Daniil Hunter is a top 5 edge rusher, in my opinion, in football. Obviously, he got hurt nice and early last year. But then you get to have on the other side Stephen Weatherly, your third-round pick from Tulane, Patrick Jones, and then just a bunch of depth after that. But I really like if you can rotate those 3 interior guys that have a lot of veteran presence there, and then have one of the best edge rushers there with Daniil Hunter. I'm feeling okay with this pick here.
Yeah, I mean the Vikings were pretty bad up front last year overall, but they had Daniil Hunter out.
Yeah, that's not. And they didn't have Sheldon Richardson and
Michael Pierce opted out.
Yeah, and Michael Pierce opted out. There's a lot of they were playing with like Armon Watts and like Jalen Holmes,
that's not good.
And that's not gonna.
They gave up some big run, some gashing run plays last year. And
I think we're gonna see a different defensive line for sure this year.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Where are we? 14 or 15?
13.
13. Well. I'm going to go with a name that might perk some ears or raise some eyebrows, but if you actually look at who's on the defensive line, it's very solid. I'm going to go with the New York Jets.
I don't hate it. A lot higher than this is easily their best group by far.
Yes, it's their best. It's easily their best position group. So Quinnen Williams just keeps getting bit by bit better and just continues to be pretty solid. They had 3 guys last year who were ranked in the top 35, I think it is, interior defensive linemen by PFF. So Quinnen Williams, Folorunsu Fadakasi, and John Franklin Myers. But then they added Sheldon Rankins. They added Carl Lawson, who just was really, really, really good last year.
Pretty sure they added Vinny Curry also.
They added Vinny Curry, yeah. So they just weren't good. Like they weren't a good team last year. Their defensive line was probably one of the only saving graces, and even at that, it wasn't doing that many great things. But they added some good pieces. Like I said, Carl Lawson had a great year last year. I like Sheldon Rankins. I like Vinny Curry. So I just think they could be really solid. I definitely think they're going to be a top half defensive line unit this year. So I think 13 is a pretty good place for them.
Yeah.
So I had them at 20, but you make the valid point of it. I think I looked a little bit into how they performed last year, and I felt like Quinnen Williams hasn't proven that he's all that he's cracked up to be, but Quinnen Williams also hasn't been surrounded by this kind of talent before. So
Right.
There's a real opportunity for Quinnen Williams to show that he's deserving of his spot. Yeah, I like Carl Lawson a lot. Lorenzo Faticasi has been pretty solid, and Sheldon Rankins, I think, was one of the top free agent gets for any team this offseason. So I think there's definitely going to be opportunities where they can wreak some havoc, which would deserve. You could put them at 13, but I'm like, I don't know what to expect. So that's why I had them at 20.
I mean, even like to get 7 sacks on that team last year with Quinnen Williams, like that, I think that's pretty impressive. Like
From the interior, it's impressive.
That's not a ton, but like just by you're the guy. Like you're the guy everyone's focused on. So to still be that disruptive, I think is pretty good.
Yeah. And if I didn't think about it, it's really only 7 picks away, which isn't really that bad anymore.
No.
Yeah, we're kind of in a spot in the list where it's like there's a lot of like good teams.
I'm actually going to go with the Patriots next. They invested in this group.
They did.
So obviously they added Matt Judon. They got Cal Van Noy, Henry Anderson, Montravius Adams, Christian Barmore, and Ronnie Perkins.
Chase Winovich.
Well,
so I actually counted Cal Van Noy as a linebacker.
Did it count him as a linebacker? That's all right, though. It doesn't really matter. They invested heavily into their front seven. I think they needed to, first of all, because they didn't really create pressure up front last year. They didn't really do much of anything last year, but as a team, period. But I just feel like this year is going to be a bounce back year for them. I feel like they're going to be in the top half of the league as far as defensive lines go. They're going to play solid defense. I think Belichick they play good defense. They just find a way to play good defense, and they're probably going to be the best coached defense still, in my opinion, in the league. There's not huge names there unless if you do put Van Noy or Judon in there and stuff like that. Judon's getting old though. But I mean, they definitely, attempted to really improve this group, both in free agency and through the draft. So I do expect a big improvement from them. So yeah, I mean, I would say there's no name there that I'm sit there and be like, man, this guy's a freak coming off the edge or anything like that. But I think we're mostly past those guys, other than maybe a couple. And I think now you're just going to look for solid top to bottom lines, and I think they're solid.
I love Matt Judon, dude. Michigan guy, went to Grand Valley State, but I love him. I think he is very, very good.
I agree.
So there are obviously more concerns now with this one when I made the list, but I had the Kansas City Chiefs as my next available. Obviously, Frank Clark bears some concern now.
Yeah, he's a problem now.
Yeah. Chris Jones is top in the middle. I think Derek Nottie did a pretty good job last year. Jaron Reed reminds me a little bit of like Ashawn Robinson. Obviously, they both went to the same college. They both went to Alabama. They both were drafted in the same round within a couple picks of each other.
Yeah,
I actually think Jaron Reed has given a little more production in his time. And then Mike Dana.
Taco Carlton.
Taco Charlton's been pretty good. And you add another Michigan guy, Mike Dana, who actually was –
he was good last year.
He was actually pretty good last year, according to a lot of ratings. So, yeah, if Frank Clark's probably going to prison. But if not, that they deserve to be here.
What an idiot.
Yeah.
Dude, he's done so many dumb things in his life, but look back at everything else. He's not a smart guy.
Yeah. No, I dropped him down into the 20s just because of that.
Yeah, and I haven't really. I actually had them. I had them at 11 initially on my list, and then I'm like, you know what? Now that we're at 15, I'll do it. That's kind of that's my thought process.
Yeah. Even though you're sitting there going,
if he plays,
well, if he plays, definitely they could be a top.
Yeah, they could fall as low as 22 without him, and then they could be 11 or 12 with him. So I think you put it right in the middle, and we're right there at 15. Let's go with it.
Ooh, I'll go with probably. Let me look. Let me just make sure before I say this. There's maybe a couple guys you could say are at his level, but probably the best edge rusher left. I'll go with the Denver Broncos. Von Miller, obviously, who I'm talking about.
Oh, you're not talking about Bradley Chubb.
What?
No, I'm not. I do like Bradley Chubb though. I think that he's yeah,
He's
like
good.
they like
Yeah,
yeah,
sure, yeah.
he's pretty good. But I mean Von Miller is just incredible. And I think Bradley Chubb looks a lot better because he's opposite Von Miller. So obviously like Von Miller dealing with injury, like he has to he's getting older. He may like lose a step, but no one's seen it yet, really. So I just think, yeah, as long as they have Von Miller, they are a right in this middle tier team. So
Yeah, I mean they could honestly,
Shelby-
depending on what Chubb gives them, which I mean he's been very good. That could be one of the top two on the edge in the league, if not the best, if Von Miller's 100%. I do like Shelby Harris a lot too.
I was gonna say Shelby Harris is pretty good.
Yeah, he had a really good year last year, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's a threesome right there. That's really good.
Derek Tuska, once I moved him out of linebacker spot, Derek Tuska is actually pretty decent off the edge as well. So
Yeah.
True.
Yep, I don't hate that one at all.
17.
I know who I have next.
I'm gonna go with the Bills. AJ Epinesa. Now they got Gregory Rousseau.
Boogie Basham.
I think that's a lot of youth, obviously, and Epinesa is still a question mark in my opinion. I think he's going to be really good, but they still have Jerry Hughes, who's older than dirt, and Mario Addison.
Yep.
I think
Addison's old star Latule is up there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Ed Oliver, they're still waiting for him to explode, I think. He's probably still middle of the pack for the most part.
I think it's crazy that when he was coming out of the draft, people were like saying his numbers were actually better than some safeties at the combine.
Yeah.
Like all around athletically.
Yeah, no, he's a freak. He's a freak. He just has to
in-
translate it to like defensive line itself now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the potential is there. So I mean, he's still really young. His problem is holding up against the run because he is a little bit undersized. But even Aaron Donald technically is an undersized defensive lineman. He just figures it out, and that was their comparison in the draft. Obviously, maybe not to that high of a level, but that's who they.
I mean, yeah, that's like he's got to model Aaron Donald if he wants to be successful. Like,
yeah, I mean,
just they're really almost the same size. Aaron Donald's probably got more muscle because he's the most freakish human being in the entire world. But like, if he can model a bit after Aaron Donald and be like a budget Aaron Donald, that's perfect for what the Bills would want him to do.
Yeah.
I would say, if they get an improved AJ Epinesa, and then if they get something out of either Rousseau or Basham, I liked Rousseau a lot in the draft, and Basham. Basham was good. Then that's going to be a pretty good defensive line. Pretty good defensive line overall, with some depth, with a little bit of pass rush depth, because Hughes and Addison are probably still their starting defensive ends, but they're getting up there in age, and if they can bring in maybe a pass rush unit or something that a team, so some backup defensive ends that are maybe a little faster and maybe not as old, that's going to be a big benefit to them. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My next available at 18 is the New York Giants.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is led by Leonard Williams.
Mm-hmm.
They get Danny Shelton, who was probably one of the best defensive players for the Lions even last year, which obviously doesn't say a whole lot, but
he's also a planet.
Yeah, he was pretty good. And then Ryan Anderson, definitely a long-time solid edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Dexter Lawrence was a recent first-round pick by them. They have O'Shane Zimenez, who did pretty well. They drafted Azeez Ojulari from Georgia, Ifeadi Odenigbo, Ellerson Smith, B.J. Hill, Austin Johnson, R.J. McIntosh. They've got some solid depth names in there as well. And so I think when you have in the middle of Leonard Williams and Danny Shelton, and then you get Ryan Anderson, who's definitely a proven edge rusher, along with that depth, I like them a lot here at 18, actually, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I would have been upset if they went any lower. So, does anybody just like explode off the page and looks like they're going to be unstoppable? Not really. but their interior line is very, very good with Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence. They need some edge production. Like I think their middle of the line like is pretty shored up and has a lot of depth and will like be solid. Just can they get those sacks from the edge rushers? Can Azeez Ojulari like translate to that? And they're definitely going to be asking him to. But yeah, that's just the only thing that has to come from it.
Yep.
I'm going to go who I actually had at 16. I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
Brian Burns is a freak. I very much like him. They have Derek Brown, Gross Matos, who are like very young and have a lot of room to grow, but I think will be good. They got a bunch of names that I don't know much about. Hassan Reddick's there, who only 17% in coverage, so we counted him amongst linemen. But yeah, I really like Brian Burns. Like I said, I like Gross Matos and Brown. So I think they belong here.
I think Gross Matos and Brown are going to get better. I think we know what Brian Burns is, and he's pushing towards elite from a pass rush standpoint. And I think
for sure
they deserve to certainly be in the top 20 just because of, even just because of Brian Burns. You know, if you're sitting there now where you have an elite pass rusher, I think you deserve to be, even if you don't have much around you, you deserve to be in the top 20.
We got to give a shout out to Mike Panasuk from Michigan State.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Too late. It's been done.
We really don't have to.
What about Daquan Jones? Wasn't he a first-round pick by the Titans that was a major bust?
Naquan Jones?
Daquan
yes. Jones. Yes, he was.
Yeah, so he's now at the back end for the Panthers in that defensive line rotation. So obviously he's still got that first round great potential, but
right.
It's almost too late at this point. I think he's like 5 years removed, and now he's just traveling.
He was drafted in 2014.
Yeah, he's just hanging out.
He's only a fourth round.
He's just taking league minimums at this point.
He was only a fourth round pick.
Oh, I thought who was the one that was it? Datone Jones. Datone. Datone.
Blaytone.
Datone.
I'll just never forget Malik McDowell. That's my favorite.
Oh, Sheepers, yeah, that's a good one. That's second round pick. Yeah,
second round pick, and never did anything.
Seattle's horrible at drafting. It's just that it's pretty simple.
Everyone gives them crap for never always trading away their picks, but they're bad at it. So why
if you guys are willing to give us something that we know is a known commodity versus we don't have to scout anybody because we have no idea what we're doing. That's what they do.
Yeah. Oh man. Who are you taking?
The Browns? Sorry, the Browns signed McDowell.
Yeah, I saw that. He's not.
Yeah. He may not make the team. Probably not.
Probably won't. I am going to go with kind of in the theme here. I'm going to go with the Chargers here.
Yeah, that's my next available.
Joey Bosa is too. You can't keep him out of this list now. He's literally in his pass rush win rate since entering the league in 2016 is second to only Aaron Donald in win percentage. So That's pretty good. And he got better last year, so even better. But aside from him, I don't really like anything. Jerry Tillery isn't very good. It'll be really interesting to see how they look this year on defense. They'll have a new head coach, so they'll be able to. I'll be interested to see what they do as far as scheming Bosa into one-on-ones, and see what they do there. But yeah, I really don't love their defensive line beyond Bosa.
I would like to see what Linval Joseph can do moving on from the Vikings.
That's really the only other name that I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, Joseph has had a decent career to this point, but I think I was looking through PFF earlier today, and Jerry Tillery, they said he's been the least valuable defensive lineman in the NFL over the past 2 seasons. That's not a good thing to have after.
I would not have expected that. Jerry Tillery was pretty highly touted coming out of college.
Yeah,
he is worth negative wins.
They do the same wins above replacement thing as the NFL or as the MLB, and he has negative wins above replacement.
Ooh.
So
Yes.
that's really hard to do. So
Yeah, I like who else do I like? So Uchenna Nwosu in Madden is a very good edge rusher. But
Yes.
you have it's very specific to Madden.
yeah, I don't think he's gonna be that good in the NFL.
No.
Tyler Fackrell spent some time with the Packers.
Mhm.
He did okay. So we'll see.
I think
But
they
again,
could really use like a and I know like they're obviously building around Herbert now and everything like that, but they could really use just like either another edge or something to really bolster the interior there, either next offseason or if with the trade or something. And I think that should be their next step in my opinion, just or through the draft. I mean, I think they're going to be okay this next year, but I think they could certainly draft a guy that could make a difference there.
Yeah.
Oh man. I'm kind of torn between 3 teams here, but
Wow.
Yeah.
Mind.
I am probably
Uh-oh.
I'm probably going to go with the Vegas Raiders
I
here.
don't hate it.
So Clelin Ferrell, he could explode. Still 4th overall pick. I mean, he looks like a bust as well, but you got to hope. Jonathan Hankins is a pretty solid interior defensive lineman, and they got Unique Ngakoue as well this offseason. Solomon Thomas has experience.
Thomas. Max with 2 X's.
Max with 2 X's.
Yeah, and as the 3rd overall pick, and then they have the first homosexual that's active in football. That's got to make a huge difference. That team could explode. So
yeah,
you don't want to play smear the queer with that guy.
Yeah, no, he's a big queer. So Quentin Jefferson also on that defensive line.
Oh no,
we'll see what happens. But I actually like quite a few names on that defensive line.
I would have liked this team a lot better if they still had Mo Hurst. Actually, they would have been really
top 15, probably easy.
Yeah, they would have moved up a lot. Ngakoue is good. I mean,
yes.
I mean, they're intriguing. If
as long as the Vegas Raiders don't have a weird owner's son, Unique Ngakoue will be fine.
Oh wait,
Shad Khan's son had so much Twitter beef with Ngakoue, it was nuts.
Yeah, it's just weird.
What are you feeling at 22?
Ooh, I don't know, because there's like a team who has between 2 teams. And I think I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens.
They're my second best available.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have a team rated higher than them, but I'm doing a last-second audible. I very much like Calais Campbell. He's getting up there in age, but he's just a large person. He's just a big
guy.
Big, tall, big tally boy. Derek Wolfe.
Brandon Williams is very good in the middle, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brandon Williams and Derek Wolfe have been very good interior linemen as well. Losing, didn't they have Yannick Ngakoue?
Yep.
Yeah, and Matt Judon, like that really hurts.
The Ravens had Ngakoue. I thought he went from the Jaguars to the Vikings and then didn't play for the Vikings much.
No, I think he
was on the Ravens.
Google it.
But they added, they drafted Jason Owe, who I think is going to be contributing. It's just where I don't know where the edge rushing comes from except Owe.
I mean, they run such a different 3-4 too, that they get so much from their overhangs and their edges and their linebackers from the pass rush standpoint that they're going to be good. I don't think. I think they're going to look better than they maybe even are. But they're good. I mean, interior, they're loaded in my opinion. That trio right there is really
that is a good audible. I think they're actually better than that's a good move.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Yannick Ngakoue was on the Ravens last.
Yep.
Dogs.
All right, I am going with the Colts.
That was my other team.
Yep, I'm going with Colts. DeForest Buckner was really good last year.
Very.
Let's see. They obviously drafted Kwity Paye. We'll see what that gives them, but I feel pretty good about Kwity Paye because he's not just a pass rusher. He was very good in run defense too. And And they have a lot of just guys. So, like,
Dudes.
Al-Quadin, Muhammad, Taekwon Lewis, Kimoko Toure, Ben Banogu, Isaac Rosell. They're pretty, like, they're all just dudes. They're just not that great.
They have a lot of African players.
They do.
Kwitipe, Kimoko Toure, Ben Banogu, Deo Odeyingbo.
They got some cool. They might be the all-name defensive line.
This might, true.
You got DeForest up there too. I mean, come on, that's pretty good.
I think the Lions have some.
Andrew Brown is super unique.
I think the Lions have some good names.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be. I do think they're going to be good. DeForest Buckner is obviously the name that stands out.
Yes.
Not just because his name's DeForest, but
DeForest.
Yeah, also because he was very good last year. And we'll see. If they get a lot out of Kwitipe, they could certainly move up on this list. And then they just got to get one or two of those other guys that are, they haven't really produced at a super high level yet to perform. Obviously, they get a lot of help from having an extremely strong linebacker group. But they could even make those linebackers look even better if they take some pressure off them this year.
So I've been holding off on them for a little while. I had them at 19. That's my next available, and that was the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jaguars.
I like Josh Allen off the edge. He really picked it up at the end of last year. Caleb Von Chason, obviously drafted out of LSU, had a productive career there. We'll see what he does. Malcolm Brown's been a nose tackle for quite a while, experienced with the Patriots. Jay Tufele, they got out of USC, who I like. Adam Gotze's from Broncos, I believe. And then they have Davon Hamilton in the middle with Taven Bryan, who I feel like gets better every single year. So at this point, 24, it feels okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I had him a little lower, but I don't know. Like, I do like Josh Allen and I like Caleb Von Chason, but and they could be pretty dynamic eventually, but beyond that, I really don't love anybody else. And I don't know. I think they just got a year or two. They're a year or two away from really being pretty solid, in my opinion. And
that lines up with Trevor Lawrence's timeline. So
yeah, it does. It does. And I feel like they're actually going to be really bad this year. I mean, period.
Yeah.
But I think there's just a lot of work left to do on the interior, especially. I don't look at Caleb Von Chason or Josh Allen for that matter as guys that are just gonna just demand double teams all game long or anything like that. I'm not saying that they need to be necessarily, but I just don't think they're quite there yet. I think they're another year or two, maybe 3 away from being a real good defensive line if they get some help on the interior. But I mean, I guess at 24, if you really look at what's left beyond them, yeah, it probably makes sense.
I only have one other team I kind of went back and forth with talent-wise with them at this point. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's tough, but I feel like just because Taven Bryan's gotten better, I think they have rotational depth that has experience. Like Davon Hamilton and Adam Gotze's have both played a lot with their previous respective teams.
Yeah,
and I think just with the experience that kind of helps, but. And Malcolm Brown obviously had 2 good years. I think he's kind of taken a stumble the last couple, but that's because he's getting old. But I like Tufele. If Tufele and Chason are both the highly touted rookies they were intended to be, then maybe they're not as far removed.
True.
So 25.
So where it actually might get a little difficult.
You know what? I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions.
Ooh, they're my second best available.
Yeah, they are my second best available too, but I want to be the one to pick them. So
because you know Ben will.
Yeah.
I was probably going to pick them next anyway.
Like we said, a lot of names. But yeah, I mean, you got the Aquara brothers, Michael Brockers, Trey Flowers. You got some names that at least us as fans really like, but also started to get some started to get some national recognition last year, with Romeo Aquara. So I think there's talent there. They're very young. They're quite young still. They just have some names there that like are gross. Like they just look really bad. I don't like John Penasini.
No.
He's run specific. He can't do
Yeah.
anything else.
And I think
Too many guys that only do one thing good.
right. And looking at some like, man, it could have looked so much better with some of the draft choices they made. But I mean, I hope Aleem McNeil is worthy of the pick that they used him on. A lot of people thought they reached for him.
And Ozarike.
So and on Wuzaruke, yeah, I trust more in on Wuzaruke, however you say it, to be like productive. But yeah, they have some youth. They have a lot of upside. It just needs to like pan out. I think I'm kind of disappointed in what Trey Flowers has been able to do. I understand that he's really the only like.
He's been in and out of being hurt too.
Yeah, but like, man, I thought when they got him, they were doing awesome. Like they were really going to just get a guy who was getting like close to 10 sacks a year, who was really going to be like their key, like their cornerstone piece, and like 7 sacks in his first season. But like this year, yeah, he was dealing with injuries, just didn't play much. But
I'm gonna blame Matt Patricia.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I don't know how much to blame on their head coach. So it'll be really interesting to see what does happen. Obviously, Dan Campbell has a different philosophy to coaching in general, but also to defense than Matt Patricia. So it'll be really interesting to see if they like did specifically like with drafting and with how they built this line for this coming year, like what they will do with these people, and if they really were like, okay, we're not going to get this guy just because he's the best available, but because we want him, with Aleem McNeil and Anwar Zaruke. Like hopefully that's what they were going with, and they will maximize those guys' potential.
Agreed. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
I mean,
yikes.
I think there's a couple teams
All right.
with like something.
I'm gonna go with the Bungles here.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean Trey Hendrickson, he's gonna be all right, but he's not Carl Lawson. DJ Reader, I actually do like a lot in the interior. He's coming back. But yeah, beyond those two, I'm not a huge fan. Yeah, I mean I don't know. I just at this point they need a lot of help in a lot of different positions. Defensive line isn't their worst position, which is sad. But
I don't hate Larry Ogunjobi.
More up the middle for them, so maybe they're a little bit better on run defense overall. And Trey Hendrickson, I do like Trey Hendrickson a lot, but unfortunately, he's probably a downgrade from Carl Lawson, and they paid him a ton of money. So, it's interesting. They're kind of in a weird spot now, where they have their quarterback already, and they've already kind of done. They've kind of decided to go all in on the offense this past offseason a little bit here.
Right.
I don't know. I think their defense is probably going to be really bad. So, obviously they're still years away from being good, but they really have not a whole lot of pass rush.
They tried with Joseph Osai out of Texas as their second round pick.
Yeah.
But
there's some pieces that are interesting. I like Larry Ogunjobi.
Yeah. Mike Daniels is pretty much toast at this point, but I see he's on that line.
True. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Like, they obviously signed Hendrickson because he's going to replace Lawson. We'll see if he has a great year. And then DJ Reader, I think, is really good on the interior. So you got 2 pieces there, and then you can kind of fill in from there. You can probably, against certain teams, have a pretty good defensive line, but they're going to struggle. With pass rush, in my opinion, for the most part, they're really going to struggle. So Carl Lawson was like their pass rush last year.
Yes.
Okay, 27. I will go with. Oh man. Oh wow, this is bad.
Yeah, this is really bad now.
I'm kind of between 2 bads, but I think I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans.
Okay.
Harold Landry was considered by some as linebacker, but only 12% of the time he went into coverage. Jeffrey Simmons was the former first-round draft pick. He's okay. Bud Dupree, they got off free agency.
Yep, Danico Autry.
And they drafted Rashad Weaver from Pittsburgh University. Worth mentioning Naquan Jones. It's not, but I just did. And then, yeah, Danico Autry. So, yeah, I think I have one other team I considered, but I'm looking head-to-head. I feel like they win. Harold Landry's a really good edge rusher. So
he is, and I don't hate Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree lays some he's good. I think he's solid. And Danico Autry has been solid. They're just not young anymore. So that's where their problem comes.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna go with really the only recognizable name left. The Dallas Cowboys. DeMarcus Lawrence is good. Very good. He is very, very good. I don't know what else to say about no, but
Randy Gregory was good last year.
Yeah, Randy Gregory.
If he can stay out of jail.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see what they have Dan Quinn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. They also have some youth Osa Odigizua. There's just really not much else there. You got Randy Gregory, who will be interesting to see. DeMarcus Lawrence has just been pretty solid. And then
they overdrafted Tristan Hill 2 years ago.
They just
that's a really bad defensive line.
It'll be a lot better looking at them when we talk about linebackers.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad of a defense. It's just
but the line's just not doing anything.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I don't have their defensive backs very high either, but their linebackers might help.
Their linebackers, at least on my list, will help a lot.
Yeah, spoiler alert. I can see what you're saying. I have them top 6.
I have them top 1.
Oh.
All right.
Spoiler alert for next week's episode already. Look at that.
Moving on, before we go too much, I'm going with the Dolphins here next.
Yeah.
Cool beans.
Talking about they don't have great linebackers either, but they have good cornerbacks.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think the bottom 3 teams are the bottom 3 teams.
Yeah, definitely. They blitz a lot, and they have to. And there's a reason they have to, because Emmanuel Ogbuz was their only decent pass rusher last year, and he was not even that great. Really hoping Jalen Phillips is pretty good.
Yeah.
But other than that, they're putting a lot of hope in that guy.
Christian Wilkins was an early round pick for him too for the interior.
He's another undersized guy that had a great college career, right? And it's he
just doesn't fit with their scheme that they're trying to change now. So he's a defensive tackle on a 4-3, and he's a 3-4 right end, but it's just awkward.
Yeah, he doesn't work with what they want. Jalen Phillips probably does better now up front, but I don't know.
There's a reason
he could be good. I like Jalen Phillips. I think he could be really good. But
and Ginkle was pretty productive last year overall with them. And then they got free agent Brendan Scarlett off the Texans, and another similar player to who Ginkle is. So hopefully that helps a little bit. But at this point,
Remember when Raekwon Davis had that really good year in college?
I do.
So. Yeah, okay.
Try not to remember. All right, so we are at the bottom 3, and I will go just because I'm almost certain the other bottom 2 are even worse. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons here at 30.
It's pretty close there.
Yeah. Now Barkevious Mingo, isn't there a child sex issue with him now?
Yeah, there's something weird going on there too.
Apparently he exposed himself to a minor.
Oh, sheesh, people.
But I don't know.
That pretty much leaves Katie Jarrett and Dante Fowler as the only bright spots because
they released him. They released Barkevious Mingo.
Yeah. And so Jacob Toyota, Mariner, and Tyler Davison, and John Kaminsky, and Marlon Davidson, those guys are going to be nothing for a very long time in the NFL. But Because Dante Fowler Jr. has been so disappointing in his NFL career thus far.
Mhm.
It doesn't look good. So Grady Jarrett in the interior, and he's like 34 now. So
Grady Jarrett is like really, really, really good. That tells you how bad the rest of that defensive line is to have him at 30. Because like he's probably, I would even still,
he's a top 10 interior. I think he's a top 10 interior defensive lineman.
He at least. I mean, he's pushing top 5 even depending on the year, and but he's old as dirt now too. So, yeah, I don't know.
He's only 28.
Yeah. All right. Well, he's still old.
Now you have to decide who's the worst.
Am I next?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. At 31, I'm going to go with. I think this other team is much worse. Not much worse. Is just the worst. I'm going to go with the Seahawks here.
Yeah. That's this next team worse.
They have Puna Ford, who has a cool name. Man, really, what do the Seahawks have to look forward to with this defensive line, man? I really don't. I don't know. Kerry Hyder has had a couple good years. Like, he had a good year with Detroit. Last year, he had a bit of a bounce back, 8.5 sacks. So, like, yeah. But, like, when he was at Detroit, he really didn't play. So, I don't know, man.
Jamal Adams led their team in pressures last year. He plays safety.
Yeah, that's impressive.
He plays safety, not defensive line. He's not even linebacker.
They've got some guys with the behavioral issues that have had high, like Alden Smith is over there, and then they got Carlos Dunlap and Robert Kimdiche. All those guys
Did they trade Carlos Dunlap?
When did they do that? I updated the rosters
No, they got him. You're right. I'm sorry. Yep.
They traded for him, didn't they?
Yeah.
But all those guys have had behavioral issues in the NFL, but had pretty high ceilings coming out of college.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe their behavioral issues are no longer a deal, and then they definitely deserve. Yeah, this team it's bad. Kerry Hyder's not good anymore. So, and he had one good year with the Lions, and then
he had 8.5 sacks last year.
Well, that's not fair. He didn't do that for the Lions.
Yeah, not fair. Patricia.
I just remember watching Kerry Hyder and being mad a lot.
Yeah.
So
same.
All right. Well, the Seahawks are 31. Who does that mean for 32?
That means the Texans are at 32.
They deserve it.
So PFF ranked them dead last year, and that's when they had J.J. Watt. So they're not getting any better.
Shaq Lawson and Merciless are better.
So they really need Charles Omenihu and Ross Blaylock or Blacklock or whatever his name is to be good, and they're not. They're going to be. I mean, I don't even see any hope here for this.
Imagine that defensive line with Matt Patricia coaching that defense. Ooh. They might as well just stand there, to be honest.
Yes.
They could just be tackling dummies, and they might trip a guy more often than they.
Those motorized tackling dummies.
Yes. Yeah, this is going to be a terrible defensive line. Wow. I think it's actually even I would put them in their own tier of bad. I'm serious. There's not even a name on here. At least with the Falcons, it's Grady Jarrett's really good. I guess with the Seahawks, Carlos Dunlap has ability. Kerry Hyder was good for
the name on there is Whitney Merciless, but he hasn't been anything for the last 2 years.
No, and
Merciless was only good because of the J.J. Watt effect at that point.
True, and then even you look at I don't know, they didn't even do anything draft wise that tells me they're gonna be good. No.
Yeah, they didn't try this year.
Yeah, well, they're just tanking, and the Deshaun Watson thing happened, and they're well, it's over, boys.
Start over.